this meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Here?
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
All right, before we move to correspondence, we do have a brief follow-up item from our previous meeting. You may notice we now have a buoy, and so we thought it would be nice to show everybody what this looks like when the lights are out.
Turn that bad boy on.
Backlight off too?
Yeah, probably. It's sensitive. Put those lights up right behind you there. There you go. So this is the buoy that we talked about. See if I can do this here. I can make it brighter. Yeah. We can,
Put a spotlight on Ron's
Yeah,
window.
there we go.
See if I can find a good spot here. Change colors. No, the closest does is blue. I actually like this color a little bit better.
Doesn't revolve
It
through
doesn't-
colors.
It doesn't, I like it on three, so I think, and remember, this is gonna be in the water pretty much, so you're gonna be seeing this is gonna really light up, you'll be able to see it really well all the way across the lake. But it's not gonna reflect too much. I think white might reflect too much, but I think this is gonna be subtle enough that, it's gonna look nice. And you'll be able to see them, and we won't be running them over, hopefully, we won't be running them over. But I wanted to give you a quick demonstration. It's lasted, me and Andy put them outside for a day, and then put it upstairs and turned on the lights, and it lasted, I don't know, 2 to 3 days.
Really?
Yeah, I was really surprised on the battery. And they say it's gonna last 14 to 16 hours. So I think that will be, we're very pleased with the quality of the product and the way it lights up, and it seems like it's pretty easy maintenance. Andy became creative and got our bird deflector up on top of there.
Oh, that's not for Boulder?
140 volts.
That actually worked out really well.
That's a
Well,
good
I know
idea.
how much, even on the rounded domes we have right now, the seagulls, it's just covered when you go to pull
Yeah.
out. I'm sure they really love that solar panel. And
Yeah.
so I came up with that. I'm surprised they didn't engineer that from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
You might want to send that back to them with it.
Yeah.
If
Get a patent
this is
number.
patent.
That's a good
Good
idea.
idea. Well, as long as, if they're in pellet gun range, we won't have to worry.
Uh-oh.
Evidently, depending on the
Uh-oh.
the setting that you use, you set the light on, obviously that would depend on the longevity of the batteries. I think the batteries are fairly reasonable. They could probably get 6 to 7 years out of a battery was his estimate, and I think they're maybe $40 to replace the battery.
Great. Great. I thought we'd start this meeting off with a bang, so.
There you go, thank you.
Thank you. Brings us now to item 4, correspondence. I don't believe we have any. Item 5, additions to business. We do have a couple items. I'd like to add item K, council openings procedure. And we have a couple of motions from the Veterans Memorial Committee. Let's put them at the end of Park and Rec, so make them item A3, Veterans Memorial.
And the other one was going to be after J?
Yeah, so it'll be
K.
item K, and it'll be council openings procedure. So do I hear, and I believe that's all we have. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda with those amendments?
So moved. Second.
Motion Duff, second Nedrow. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, first call of public, opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items. Seeing none, I will close the first call to the public. Item 7, approval of consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion Duff, second Dumont, to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Malik?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss the Water Management Board minutes.
Sure. So can we have a friendly to just remove Water Management Board from consent? All right. Anything else? So the motion is approve the consent agenda, but with Water Management Board removed from consent. All right, roll call vote.
Edra.
Yes.
Segris.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Clement.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to item 9, Water Management Board minutes. Mr. Malik?
Well, I just have a question. In the Water Management minutes, on the second page, under new business, it says, motion by Scott, seconded by Sargent, to recommend the council to approve a budget of $1,600 to attend the Michigan Lakes and Stream Annual Meeting. And then you go into D in our folder, and there's an application, and on the back of that application is the costs, and it says a full conference for 2 days is $195. Are we planning on sending 8 people?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's
Yeah,
exactly
refer to
the
me.
topic we'll talk about when we get to item B1 if we want.
Yeah.
Okay, well, again, I just want to make sure on, because it says a couple of people have gone in the past, and if they've gone in the past, my personal feeling is I don't see going again, but if it's going to come up for discussion, we'll discuss it.
Yep, that is exactly the item we'll talk about on B1. So in terms of receiving and approving, actually just receiving, we don't really approve, but do I hear a motion to receive the Water Management Board minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Duff, second Malik. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Brings us down to public hearings. We do not have one scheduled. However, we have discussed scheduling one for the Oak Island Neighborhood Park, once we have that plan back in. It's arrived, it came back in, it's a little too quick to do it for tonight's meeting, but I was wondering if we should schedule a public hearing on that for our April meeting.
Let me defer a little bit. Are we ready for that April meeting?
I think so.
Are we? Okay.
You know, I'm going to be getting some information from landscapers, some different ideas, but as far as the outline that the engineers put together, and as far as the basics, I think it's all in place. So I think
Good.
that gives us enough time to promote it and get it out. If you'd prefer to wait, that's fine.
No, I don't, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
I just, there's been a lot of communication going back between the board of Oak Island and yourself. and
I
It
think
looks like it's ready to go, so
I
let's
think
do it.
that's the best date for it. We have a
Good.
few more weeks to finalize some things, and I think we're ready to go.
Excellent.
It would be best not to wait too long for landscaping. You want to plant it in the hottest part of the summer.
Yeah, we were waiting to get your formal recommendation, so we knew what we had to deal with, so, great, let's do it.
All right, so can I maybe hear that in the form of a motion? Schedule a public hearing on Oak Island Neighborhood Park for our April meeting?
So moved?
Motion Scott, second Duff. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 12A, recommendation to release budgeted funds for Bunny Lunch. And actually, let me see if I can get a motion for items 1 and 2, and recommendation to release budgeted funds for St. Patrick's Pub Crawl.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Duff, to release funds for the Bunny Lunch and the St. Patrick's Pub Crawl. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Segris.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Clement.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Edra.
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to item A3, Veterans Memorial. Mr. Sinkowitz?
Yeah, we had a meeting upstairs and prior to the meeting, and we discussed a couple things, and we've come up with a name for the memorial. It was discussed whether we wanted to make it Wolverine Lake, or Village of Wolverine Lake, period, or whatever, but it's going to be Lakes Area Veterans Memorial, and then underneath it, it'll say Village of Wolverine Lake. Correct? Okay, and it was unanimous decision. And the other decision we made was something that, we know the general area where we're going to use it, we're going to use that concrete pad that currently has the exercise equipment on it. But what we wanted to do, and it was brought up that get the attention over there. So a motion was made and supported unanimously that our administrator is going to look into a flag, a 25-footer,
30.
or 30-footer, I'm sorry, a 30-footer with internal mechanisms so it can't be tampered with. And we're going to, as a group, decide where we want to put it in the general area of where the monument would be, and just have a small plaque, either plasticized or something that say, future site of Veterans Memorial. So we want to get that up to attract the attention and go with that. So those were the two things that we decided on. And there's a third thing that I want to bring up, but I think if we can get council to vote on those two right now, if we need a council vote.
Let's get a motion to show support for it and go in as we move along.
On those two, the
Yep, so
the name and the flag.
So, do I hear the motion as, approve the recommendation to formally name the memorial as the Lakes Area Veterans Memorial, Village of Wolverine Lake? Let's do it one at a time.
Okay.
So that's the first motion.
Right.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
I think Sinkowitz made it, but you get the second,
Ah,
Alec.
there you go.
Further discussion? Just as curiosity, so in the discussion, is it really going to be intended to be sort of a Lakes Area Veterans?
Yeah, we all felt in the discussion that, that to do something like this, it's going to be more than just a flag and a statue. We're trying to make it kind of a community area park, and hopefully some of the communities might feel guilty and chip something in, but we didn't want to just put it up there as a Wolverine Lake Village, because I don't think you'd get enough veterans to make it what we want it to be. So it's going to be open to all of the lakes area, anybody want. Obviously, you have to be a veteran, that's the only thing that matters. So, and we're still coming up with different ideas for what we want to put there.
Okay. Further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second motion would
Was
be.
the purchase of a flag, and we're looking at the flag, the pole, the installation and everything. Nathan, what do you think, $4,000 would cover it?
Yeah, and I want to explain that amount a little bit. We have a man in the village who actually does this for a living, and he gave me a quote. It was more than I thought, and I talked to Andy and the chief about this today, and the reason that it's quite a bit is because of the internal mechanism to raise and lower the flags. None of us who work here felt like it would be appropriate to have an external mechanism, because then somebody could run over at 3 o'clock in the morning, cut the strings, steal the flags, whatever. For a 30-footer with an internal mechanism, aluminum pole, that could fly up to 3 flags if we wanted to do nation, state, village, it was about $3,700, I think. I would like to do a little bit more conversation with the vendor that I spoke with today, and maybe look around a little bit, just to make sure we explore all of our options. But it is a little bit more of an expense than I think I was prepared for at the beginning. But that would get us a product that could stay there forever and be very sturdy and also not be tampered with.
Would you be comfortable with a maximum of $4,000?
Oh, I think we could do that. Yeah, I mean, the quote today would cover.
Yeah,
would cover that.
that's a starting point.
Okay, so I think I hear the motion as purchasing and installing a 30-foot flagpole at the site of the future Veterans Memorial with a maximum of $4,000. So that's the motion. Sinkowitz, second Duff. Further discussion, and my understanding is this would come out of our raised for the memorial funds, correct?
John, I have a question.
Well,
You're going to have
Let me go to
a,
him, and then I'll come back.
okay, you're going to have a mechanism, the flag is going to stay up 24/7, am I correct? We're going to have illumination for that in the evenings?
I think we'd like to put some sort of a solar light on it that would, yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure, because I know it's basically a requirement for the flag.
If you're gonna have it up,
Right.
yeah, you have to have lighting.
well, we were thinking that since it's in the park, that maybe this would be something that the village would like to contribute, or we can wait till we get into the budget section when we're gonna go after you pretty heavy. So, name your
You
poison.
need a check, huh?
We can wait, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, and to be clear, I'm not opposed to the notion of the village putting a flagpole there. I just, we haven't quite budgeted for it yet, we haven't looked through it yet. So council's pleasure, we can approve this now and proceed, and I'm sure we will want a flagpole there in the future. But let's also make sure that we're clear that this would then come out of general fund, not raised funds.
I think you probably want to set a design too.
Yeah, I would think.
Figure
of
out
design,
where you
but
want to
figure
put it
we're
instead
gonna
of
do
just
it.
stick
No,
a
it's,
pole up there right now.
it's gonna be probably a temporary location.
You mean in the middle of the?
No, it's not, won't be in the middle of the concrete, but we're going to look at a place that seems logical and to put it there. But what they do is like a lot of times they put if the pole is 6 inches diameter, they have a 6-inch sleeve, and they cement that in there. So if we decide that the memorial is gonna be this way or that way, because we don't have an actual drawing of what the memorial is gonna look like, but we wanna get something there to get people's attention, and, if you're gonna donate, this is where it's gonna go and all that stuff. So we figured get the flag in there now, and I think we'll take and make a logical
What about the
location
equipment?
so it doesn't have to be moved.
Can I
What about
make,
the equipment? Isn't it- I mean,
That's gonna be taken out of there.
so we'll take the equipment out?
Well, I think the
don't
plan
know.
is to keep the equipment there now, but put the flagpole somewhere in the Vita Trail area
Okay.
that's visible for cars. But the master plan for the park does call for that equipment to be dispersed along the trail
Correct.
eventually. And so that won't be there when the memorial itself is up, and we don't think. But the idea now is to put this in the grassy area that's just sort of open there.
Yeah, we're gonna try to pick a place where we think that the flag can stay there for permanently, but,
can I suggest that maybe what we do is have a motion to have the administrator review, come back to us with a plan, and then we can approve it at our next meeting?
well, we're gonna probably meet between now and then to get a general location of where we wanna put it. So, I don't know, what do you think, a month's gonna hurt anything? Okay.
It's nasty out there.
Nobody wants to dig right now anyways. So, do we have the motion now as, motion for the village to purchase and install a 30-foot flagpole, with the administrator to research the issue and come back to the council with a recommendation at our April meeting?
That'll work. That'll be my motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion Sinkwitz, second Malik, and that might also let us investigate the issue of lighting, location, what else we might need to do around it,
Yep.
That sort of thing. Okay, so that's the motion. We didn't actually put money in it. Well, we said village purchase. Let's get a roll call vote. Oh, wait, further discussion? Roll call vote.
McGee?
Yes.
Clement?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Malik?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Medrose?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
There's one other issue.
Oh, wait, okay. Was that on this one, or is, yeah,
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
It was brought to me by, of course, literature of English, the veterans, and then there possibly a chapter.
correct.
It's more than one veteran. I've seen it both ways.
Right.
So.
So she
that's
just
why I'm
corrected me in
sure.
my spelling, so I just
I
wanted
just
to make
wanted
sure.
to make sure that it's gonna be right on.
Yeah, actually, as we have it written here, there's no apostrophe at all. It's just Veterans Memorial.
As in plural.
Usually it would have an apostrophe after
Possessive, huh?
I'm good with the possessive.
Okay, I just,
Okay,
thanks.
thanks. Okay. third issue.
Okay, as I said at the last couple council meetings, that my intentions for a fundraiser was to start a raffle, $10 a ticket, and buy 1,000 tickets, and first prize would be $1,000, second prize would be $500, and third prize would be $150. Well, the problem comes in, and I've given up. I know the administrator has tried for over a month, and I've tried for longer than that, to get our 501c3 that, whatchamacallit,
The
Onwards and
Onwards and Upwards have, and they've got all the information, and for some reason, they're dragging their feet. So I will still put the raffle on once I get an approved permit from the state in my hands.
Okay.
So who's ever got it, do whatever you want with it. When I get it, I'll start the raffle. But the whole idea was, I wanted to get it into the spinal column that there's gonna be a raffle and we're gonna do this, but I can't because I don't know if we're gonna have one. And I was always under the impression that 501c3, I know it was for the fireworks and some of that stuff, but I thought for anything that the village was doing that was,
So they, support a pretty wide variety of
Right.
village activities, but they're an independent 501c3. We don't run them through the village. And I do know that this is a pretty quiet time of year for them. They're usually a little more active in the summertime. I think this came up at the last meeting. They may not have even had a board meeting yet. I mean,
I think they did a couple weeks ago. I don't know. It's past me. It's just that I
I
handed
believe we
it.
may have,
Volunteered already tonight to take this forward and get an answer for Mr. Sienkiewicz in the next week.
okay, so we've got a representative, and she'll be on top of it,
The board member.
a board member. Okay, so I think we're still gonna have a raffle, but we'll get it back to the board.
I'm just one vote.
You're just one, just one vote, I know that, but at least we know it'll go to the board. Mr. Scott?
Just as an annotation on our plan, page 33, they do make the veterans the word possessive,
Oh, okay.
just so you know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a good source or
Not
not.
my usual forte, but if you're looking at Veterans Day, it's not with the possessive. If you're looking at the Vietnam Veterans
Ah.
Memorial, it's also not with the possessive. I
Okay.
was doing a little research here as you guys were
Good,
continuing. But
excellent.
Well, we'll get an English
reasonable-
teacher to
I
tell
know.
There we go.
Reasonable minds may differ.
It may differ.
Well, and which is why it didn't strike me that it maybe
Must have
needs
that
the possessive,
smartphone over
because
there
I've seen lots of veterans
Yeah,
without.
both ways.
Without.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna carve anything in stone in the next one, so we can take a closer look.
Okay.
All right, I think that's what we've got on Veterans Memorial
Doesn't matter.
tonight, right?
Got it? Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. Good to see you proceeding. Discussion, electric drop at Clara Miller Park. Let me go first to Nathan, and then I think we'll talk with Andy.
Yeah, thank you. We talked about this a few times, and at our last meeting, or maybe it was the meeting before, I was asked to get a quote for this, and as I started talking to Andy about it, obviously Andy's way more knowledgeable than me on this, and we thought it would be helpful just to have a group discussion, and I appreciate the Park and Rec Board members for coming, because we want to make sure that what we're doing is in the right location for what you need for the festival and for other events. And so I asked Andy to attend tonight, and what you're seeing here, this is a picture of our current electric service. Andy, this is on the fence near the parking lot, right? Or is this inside the best? This is,
That would be near the pavilion by the basketball courts.
but it's too far for good use for the festival and for the events that are over there. And so I think what we really wanted to do was try to find the right location for this, and what we've talked about is the restroom building, mounting this on the back of it. And I just wanted to make sure with the board before we start getting quotes and different things that was going to work for you, and that something similar to what you're seeing here would also work for you.
What I would like to discuss with Andy is that of putting electrical on the pavilion itself, instead of running extension cords from the fence to the pavilion. We have to run sometimes double extension cord instead of 100-foot extension cord, maybe 150. And if we could put it on the pavilion at the two corners facing the basketball court, and the rest of the electricity on the back of the bathroom.
I think Phil and I have talked, kind of gotten a general idea of what they're looking for. Basically a power outlet, and we'll have to come up, if you want, just like one duplex on each corner of the large pavilion, and then something similar to this bank on the back of the restrooms, is what I'm gathering now. I noticed when I took a picture of the breaker box in the restrooms, there are a couple spots left for some breakers there. This is where I need to get a better idea of what we're kind of looking for, because all I heard is we need a new service drop for Clara Miller Park, and I'm like, well, you're talking 10, $15,000, $20,000 for Edison to run a line underneath the path all the way up there. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing yet. So we're getting an idea. I still don't know if the service that we have available in those restrooms will be able to, I think if we were to maybe not utilize this, maybe just leave it there, but we can isolate the breakers and use something on the back of the building. I'm still gonna have to get somebody to come in, take a look to see what's available. The only other problem that I can foresee right now we do have power running to the large pavilion and the light source. I don't know how much, that's probably only a 20 amp breaker, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to have, basically duplexes around there and still carry it with the, whatever, probably a, like 12-3 line that's going into that right now. It might be too much for it. Excuse me, that's where I could see possibly a problem with the drops on the pavilion without us doing a new underground and upgrading, but I won't know that until I talk to an electrician.
Okay, so I think what we're potentially looking at here, let me see if I've got it right, is putting an exterior panel on the back, hopefully being able to put it into the new breaker box. We don't have to drop a new line or anything like that. Should be able to do it out there, at least on the back of the restroom, and get some power out there. We could potentially do extra outlets at the pavilion, but we need to research that a little bit more in terms of capacity and what we could actually put there. It may be that if we wanted to do that, we have to drop another line in and bring it across. Still not dropping a new
Correct.
power drop, but it would need some additional work.
Do you happen to know what the actual main is on the pavilion?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know if
I think it's fairly small, though. Is that 100
and
amp?
the pavilion are the same?
It is the same, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's probably just 100 amp.
I might be able to get
service.
with you Friday and give you a little advice before you have to call an electrician.
Okay. Take that.
That sounds good. I know the other thing that Nathan mentioned is, and it's a question that's come up, so if we're thinking about making some changes around the restroom or extending it or putting a stand next to it, does this preclude us doing anything? And I think it sounded to me like the answer is no. We might have to, at the time we do it, take the box off, move things around, put it back on, but it's not like we would buy a box and then 2 years later couldn't use it again.
Correct. Yeah, it's when it was just brought to me saying we need a new put in a new service drop into the restrooms. I'm like, well, wait a minute, because even when we got the estimate on the restroom, the concession stand / storage area on the back of the restrooms, I think it was only somewhere to $5,000 to $7,000. You're just talking about cement block and trusses, basically. The most expensive part of that was all the stainless steel roll-ups in the doors would be where the cost would be on that. And if we were to run a new an upgraded service underneath that, that would definitely be an interruption for footings and such. That's why I thought we were maybe putting the cart before the horse in that event. But I think, we'll have to take a look at what our service can handle right now, and that would be step one, now that I know what we're looking to try to accomplish.
Okay. And,
But we might have to have certain instructions on, don't turn all this on at one time, because it ain't gonna work. There'll definitely have to be some isolation.
Okay. Questions?
Andy, didn't Detroit Edison put in new poles in service at Nantucket 2 years ago? Yeah.
The
Remember
lake
because
level
the
pump,
underground
yes.
And the transformer?
Yeah.
Did we pay for that, or did Edison?
Edison paid for the underground wire. We paid for the conduit material, and we installed that.
trenched it, right?
Yes,
That was it.
correct.
I was just wondering the $20,000,
Yeah.
I mean, but I can see where you've got to come all the way across the, okay.
Yeah, it's probably 3 times the length of that. The job foreman did tell me the price of the wire that they installed on there, and it was pricey, and there's probably 3 times as much as that. Yeah, I think it was probably about a $5,000 to $6,000 drop that they ran down through there.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, let's
Other-
evaluate it Friday and come back to you.
Okay, I don't think we need a motion out of that. I think we can just continue to investigate, and if you follow up, I think that's good with everybody? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Update on revised Clara Miller Park Master Plan. As I think you've all seen, we have a new version of the plan. It arrived this weekend. I don't know if everybody's had time to really go through it in detail. What I had thought we might do is schedule a work session to kind of go through it, talk about it, maybe schedule a joint section with Park and Rec if we could. That would, of course, require finding a good date for that. Normally, I would say our work session 2 weeks from now might be a good date for that. However, this room is going to be used by Citizens Police Academy on that date. That's the one day we have a standing conflict. So it's kind of council's pleasure. I think a work session does make sense to go through this. Before we bring it back to another public hearing, let's go through it, let's talk about it, let's make sure, for example, the prioritization of what might be phase one, what might be phase two makes sense to us, the steps make sense to us. But we do need to then find a date that would work.
So you're saying the 28th is going to be utilized?
Yeah, that's the day they have Lakes Area Police Academy in here.
You want to do it the Tuesday before?
I think the Tuesday before would work.
Monday or Tuesday, I don't care.
I will be out of town on the Monday. I'll be back on the Tuesday.
Oh, then we'll do it Monday. No, Tuesday's fine. With me, anyway.
That would be Tuesday, March 27th.
Pardon?
Not be available.
Probably
You
7
going to
o'clock.
be in Florida or you going to be here?
No, you look like you just went down before, did you?
Mexico for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's right, too. Good time.
7 p.m.?
I think that's what we're talking about, yep.
Well, we got one
I won't
that,
be here.
one that, who else can't make the 27th?
I'm good.
I'm good.
It occurs to me I should probably check my calendar here. I'm good on that day. I don't know, Brian, are you out all that week?
No, just that day.
Just that day?
Figures. Work.
You're out of town.
How do we feel about the Thursday?
Thursday's fine.
I'm good.
Thursday, the 29th?
March 29th.
Yeah.
Kelly, that good with you?
March. March 29th.
March 29th.
At 7 o'clock.
Let's do it.
That's good with you? Okay. I- Yeah, that looks, he's here, it looks good, but I don't know what the rest of it.
It's going to be, I think, about as good as we can do, you know, there's always people in and out of town, but, okay. Do I hear a motion to schedule a work session on the updated Clara Miller Park Master Plan on Thursday, the 29th? Motion Duff,
Second.
second Dumont. Further discussion?
I just wanted to point out, for anyone interested, the plan is online. On the front of our website, there's a list of links along the right side, and it's one of those links. If you click on that, it'll take you to the plan, and you can scroll through all the pages and look at it. So anybody who wants to go ahead and take a look at it, it is available now.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks, everybody, and looking forward to talking about that. And the thing that, in particular, I want to make sure we look at in some detail is sort of the phasing. It's kind of the last few pages of the plan where we look at, okay, so what are we going to do in the first couple of years? What are we going to do in like years 3 through 5? And let's just take a look and make sure that makes sense to us. Because we are good. Obviously, it's a 20-year plan. We can't do it all at once, so I just want to make sure we're working on the things we want first. All right. Item D1, recommendation for council to approve a budget of up to $1,600 to attend the Michigan Lakes and Streams. I used to have that
MLSA.
acronym on my tongue, but
Mr. President, let me start with, I apologize for my earlier comments. I was so busy reading through all the minutes for all the boards that I neglected the CD on the agenda.
that's okay. We've got it there. So, do we know who wants to go and?
We do. We do. And we're going to allow council to decide if half of this budget will come out of general funds, out of the water board, however that will. Mr. Duff and the member of our board, his wife, both have an interest in going. As far as attendance, I've been to 3. I know that Ed, you and I were at 1 together.
Yeah,
Mike Sargent.
I've been,
It's been a while. That's up at
yeah, that was Bay City.
Bay City.
And then I was in one in Lansing. I had mentioned to, I mean, it's really, it's inexpensive and it's a good thing that I would say that anybody on the council that wants to go, I'm interested in going. I gotta see what I can do, if I can, because I have that end of April is busy for me. But if I can swing it, think I'd like to go too.
Yeah, they really bring together quite a number of panels, and what I know Mike Sargent and I did was to split into it, because there are so many panels, you cannot possibly attend them singularly. As to the cost, it was what we call in any business a swag, silly guess, because we didn't have any brochures. I remembered that I had some notes that I thought that the attendance fee was somewhere around $200. It turns out to be $210. And we need 2 nights stay. And I think the budget we used in the back was somewhere around $110 if you're going to stay on site. So that gets you to $220 plus $210 becomes $440. There's going to be meals involved and, of course, travel costs involved. So that is high. I see a figure here. I just added it up to about $620, $650.
Last
So.
time we provided.
Yeah, the other thing is the last time Linda and I provided the condo, which saved on that. And the fact that there's a married couple, maybe that might save on it. I mean, I assume we'll be in the same room.
Can for costing, we assume you'll be the same room.
So
So
certainly
I
we
think-
can review that down to maybe.
So I think it sounds to me like we have 1 water board member, 2 council members. It's a really good conference. I think it's good to have people in attendance.
Yeah.
Maybe we can split this up and do, so for one person and a room, it would be like 600? Is that what you said?
I think that's actually a little high, but I think that would work.
So, maybe from water board, Catherine Duff, and cost not to exceed 600, and from council, Sinkowitz and Mr. Duff, cost not to exceed 800 or so.
Mhm.
Does that sound right to everybody? And then that way, that money for the council members comes out of our training budget. The money for the water board comes out of their training budget.
Makes sense.
And if you look at this, and this is similar to the ones that John and I have been to before, what's nice is they have a block, like an hour block from 1:30 to 2:30. Now, here's one stewardship on association, so we really, but at the same time, you can go in inland lake ecology, and then if you look at the next hour, it's the same thing, so what you missed in that hour, you can go to that hour, so it's really done, like most of these are, there's a lot of thought in there where, you're not gonna sit and listen to something that means nothing to you, and yet you can.
Yeah, and you also have people, thanks Ed for that, because I'm just looking, I see Mike West out of Upper Long Lake, they're doing a presentation on Phragmites. So you really get some networking going here too, so don't let go of the opportunity. I mean, it really is a great. Oh, veterans.
All right, so I think I hear the motion as, oh wait, Nathan?
I just wanted to, and just to clarify, I think last year, the village reimbursed the attendees after the fact. And I just want to be clear, if you
Yeah.
all want to make these arrangements yourself, because if you want me to do the registration forms and the
Yeah.
hotel selections, I will, but I would need to have that communicated to me. Otherwise, if you do it yourself, then it would just be a matter of getting the receipts back to me and we'll
Yeah.
reimburse you. Is that
I think
preferable?
we did it ourselves, only because I pre-registered, and I think I bought mics at that time, just to get the cheap rates.
And I think we have 2 more days.
Yeah, I
It
think,
saves
I just
$15
said, yeah.
if you pre-register in the next 2 days. I just wanted to make sure the expectations were what they were. If you wanted me to register you, I would, but if you want to do it yourself, we'll just do reimbursements.
Yeah, I might comment, they have breakfast and lunches too, so that, you can adjust what's ever gonna go on.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the,
It's part of this
Part of it, yeah.
$210.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
you won't get
very-
Eggs Benedict, but you get those watery scrambled eggs.
There you go.
You won't starve.
And donuts.
We'll get you a donut. So what I hear is a motion to approve attendance of Catherine Duff, Mark Duff, and Ed Sinkowitz to the Michigan Lakes and Stream Annual Conference, to be paid not to exceed out of 600 out of Water Management Board training funds, not to exceed 800 out of council funds. I think that's it.
Was that 800
No,
or
that's only
400?
1,400 if you're going 6 and 8.
Yeah.
Right, but there were only we're 3 attendees, we're 2 rooms.
Oh,
Okay.
that's true.
Right.
Mr. President, if I could, round trip mileage alone will be almost $300. It's about 500 miles. And we
Looks like
use
we're
the
not gonna be
IR
able to tip anybody.
We use the IRS reimbursement.
Oh, John's got it down to the
So-
nickel.
Which is 54.5 cents. So
So-
I think you're going to be a little bit light.
So I'm gonna
Plus
be
we've got-
light here. So
we've got some money spent
750
already.
out of Water Management Board and 1,000 out of council, or actually like 1,200.
Yeah, something more like that.
1,200 out of council funds.
Okay.
So 750 Water Management Board, 1,200 out of council. 750 is what's budgeted for
Yeah,
Water
for
Management Board.
Water Management.
So
I'd like to make that motion.
I hear that motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Scott. Further discussion? See if the treasurer is,
One of the problems with the council budget is that we've spent already half of it. That's where we expense our Huron River watershed dues, which are about $500 a year, 400 and something. So, and we also have a slight expense in the water board budget, so we'd have to amend it a little bit. We'd have to up the ante in the water board budget maybe by $100 to make it fly, maybe 200 to be safe. If we're going to do a budget amendment, if you'd rather wait until all the expenses come in. But with only 400, with less than $500 left in the council budget, for sure there'd have to be some sort of an amendment there.
okay.
If you
So
want to tackle that.
do I hear that motion to include with an amendment to be done once expenses are known?
So,
Okay, and then that way we can find out what it is, and then we can amend it afterwards. But that way we're all clear that we are going over the original, but we have ratcheted down that budget over the few years because we haven't really sent people to many places. All right, further discussion. Roll call vote.
Clement?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Malik?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Pedro?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes. All right, motion carries. Item E, let me hand this, I think, over to Leanne.
This is an ordinance amendment regarding what's commonly known as a minor in possession law, and it's in order to conform to the existing state law. So we need to match up with that. And the main change to it is that the state statute makes the first offense a civil infraction. Right now, it's a misdemeanor, and the second offense will be a misdemeanor. And it also provides that the first offense allows, there's a provision that allows a court to place the first offenders on a probationary status. And that also remains for second offenders, although it's a misdemeanor offense, but there's a few changes to that as well as to what constitutes a second offense. A little tightening up there.
Okay. So not really optional for us to revise and match. We want to do that.
Correct.
And am I right that this sort of the revised language we have before us fairly closely mirrors surrounding communities?
Yes.
I have a question.
And I think the chief would confirm that, I presume, as well.
Yeah, actually, this is, it may seem like we're getting weaker on these things, but this is a good thing in this case, because what was happening is we were getting some of these kids that were 17 and 18 years old at a misdemeanor, and it affected everything from their college to their future employments and things like that. And so the state and some of the legislators have reduced that to a misdemeanor. However, they've also made it more strict in some areas as far as oversight. So they have to toe the line. And so we can identify problems earlier and deal with them at a much earlier rate. So this is a much better way to go. And some actual juveniles are actually still going to be going through this through our district courts, which is something different also. So it's long overdue.
And that's what I wanted to know, if this is something that is not going to be on the kid's record.
No, that's why it was changed to a civil infraction, and actually, there are provisions in there that allows it to be removed after a certain amount of time, so it's a very well thought-out believe it or not, law.
It happens.
From the
Yeah.
Occasionally.
legislature, so.
This is somewhat
Rarely, but
interrelated
it
to
happens.
the youth assistance. in a
Correct,
sense, or-
yes.
yeah.
It's similar to the youth assistance.
I mean, it's going to affect how they're.
It actually,
handled.
will, as far how it will affect the youth assistance may come alongside the local court system and offer some different counseling. However, this is probably going to lighten some of the load for youth assistance because now, rather than diverting them from a criminal charge, it's still a civil infraction. We don't have to divert them to the Lakes Area Youth Assistance. They can go directly to the courts. So anything, if anything, it's going to help lighten the load a little bit with them. But I still think on the backside with the counseling and different things with the parents and these, the people that have been convicted of this first MIP, they're still going to utilize their counseling services and things of that nature.
All right.
Sounds
Do I hear a motion to introduce the ordinance as presented?
So moved.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Duff. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Duff.
Yes.
Mallon.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, brings us to item F1, recommendation to purchase 20 additional grinder pumps from Commerce Township. Go figure, we approve a sewer SAD, and now we need more pumps.
It's amazing how that happens, isn't it? As council knows, we approved a connection SAD. I believe it's some 36 homes have taken advantage of that. We're down to about 6 grinder pumps left in our stock. Commerce Township recently just purchased 2 truckloads of the same exact pumps that we use, and they have graciously offered to sell us half of one of those truckloads. The advantage is they received those prices with year-and-a-half-old prices. And so by buying them from Commerce Township, we are saving about $200 per station. So there's a great deal of advantage, and I personally think it's a great idea to take Commerce Township up on that. So based upon that, each grinder pump will cost $2,980, and 20 of them is then $59,600. And we need to just forward that check to Commerce Township, and those will be transferred over into our column.
So, and my understanding is actually they still stay in the same place there, they're just coming to our column.
They do. Commerce Township has agreed to store our grinder pumps in their wastewater treatment plant buildings, so they're protected and out of the weather, and they're certainly have fronted the money for us until we repay them for those grinder pumps.
All right. Do I hear a motion to purchase 20 additional grinder pumps at a cost of $59,600?
So moved.
Motion Dumont, second Duff. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Mallon.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Just a little sidelight to that, we in the village offer the residents the option of having a grinder pump, a control panel that is operated by a generator. And so Commerce Township doesn't have those available, and therefore at the next meeting I expect to have a suggestion that the village purchase 6 of those to offer those to the residents that want it. And I explain each time I meet with them that if they have a whole house generator, they don't need it. Typically, if they have a well, they don't need it, because if they don't have power to their well, they're not generating water. But I certainly warn them that if they live on the lake, their kids are a neat transfer of water from the lake up to the back of their toilets, and so they might want to consider that. So I'm going to say about 1 in 10 put that grinder pump control panel in it for the generator. We'll also need to have a couple extra length of wires, because some people want their grinder pump. You know, everyone we meet with has a different idea of where they want their grinder pump. Some of them want that further from their electrical source than what the standard 50-foot is. And so we'll probably have a couple extra wires, and all of that's reimbursable to the village, of course, when the residents decide and purchase those then. That'll be next month.
All right.
Did the cost of the grinders, have they Gone up substantially, or?
They've gone up about $200 a station, so this is a fairly substantial cost. But if we were to go on our own, obviously, we'd be paying those higher prices.
What is the actual price of one now with the extra 200?
1,800.
It's about $3,200 is.
The pump and the grinder?
That's the pump, the grinder, the station, and a control panel. That's that whole unit.
Oh, that's a whole unit.
Yeah, the station is $29.80, but then there are a couple other pieces.
Right.
All right, anything else on grinder pumps? How about the roads?
All right. Appreciate this time, council, because there are some options that I'd like to present to council and let you know what the different options are, and then maybe have some feedback. As you know, we've been working on originally a 7-year plan for the renovation of most all the roads in the village. After a couple of years of investing in those roads, we're down to like a 5-year maintenance plan. I personally walked and rode around all the village roadways, and I came up with a plan to repair the roads within the village over the next 5 years. I offered that plan to the village administration and to the DPW, and Andy and I met a couple weeks ago to make sure that he and I were on the same wavelength, because nobody travels these roads more than the DPW does. So after that meeting, we had a couple changes that we wanted to offer to you, and let me backtrack just a little bit. As you know, we didn't go out for bids this year for paving any of the roads this spring. You have to understand that we get our best bids on paving roadways if we bid it in January. In anticipation, the contractors lower their bids so that they know what projects they're going to do first thing in the spring. Right out of the gate, they have projects to do. Village is an extremely, I'm going to say, forgiving and easy place to work, because it's all sand and gravel and there's not flooding, and so normally we get great prices for springtime construction. If you recall, we had such good prices last year that we did 2 budget years in the same summer. And so this budget year has already been spent last fall, and we took advantage of those great prices from a company called ASI last year. So that being said, that's why we don't have any roads to offer you to repair this spring. And if we were to bid, and as you know, we're in budget sessions, and Mike and I work closely together, if we were to budget funds this year for being done the latter part of the summer, now the contractors are going to be bidding on a year when they have their projects bid right all the way through November. And so I don't anticipate that we would get very good prices for that. I did touch base with the contractor that did it last year. They really like working in the village, and they feel that they could offer us a pretty good price if we had the flexibility to work them in anytime between July and November. And in the village, we certainly do. And so we might recommend to go out for bids, and if they come in too high, then we can just wait and rebid it again in the winter. I was warned by a number of contractors, however, that we can expect a 20% bump in rates from the numbers we received for last summer. And so the numbers that I presented to you and that I'm going to be referring to indicate that additional 20% bump in costs. So back to the reason why we need some input from you. And I'm going to step over to the map here. It corresponds to the map that you have in your packets. In the original 5-year plan, the goal was maybe to get most of the roads in the northern half of the village updated. And so Apple Orchard Lane was in this year. We used to be a pink. And so that Andy and I felt that if this were taken out, because it's really not in as bad a shape as these roads down here. As you can see, most of the roads down in this area are in very good shape. As Andy pointed out to me, Adelaide and Amenia and this section of Ladd are probably the worst roads in the whole southern half of the village. And so it made a great deal of sense to bump Apple Orchard off into the 2019-20 fiscal year and take these funds and drop them down and make these roads here in the more current year, the 18 to 19 budget year. And certainly we still have Oak Island as a early year as well. So instead of having Apple Orchard, we have, Glencourt, Roselawn, and Terry, Oak Island, and then these roads here to be done in this next fiscal year, which starts July 1. But you can see adding these roads have more lineal footage than just Apple Orchard Lane, and so therefore the budget's increased slightly from, I believe the original budget for this year was in about $189,000. I'm sorry, I don't have that number right with me, but as proposed right here, the budget jumps to $336,000. Sitting down with your treasurer, and he's the most qualified to give you an understanding of what that means budget-wise and how that might fit into the funds available. And you have to understand that the roads are strictly dependent on budget. We can move those around, we can drop some off, we can push some back. So really, we're looking for some input from you and Mr. Condek as to how to handle these roads, keeping in mind that if we bid this winter, I would probably recommend that we bid this budget year or next budget year and the following budget year and try to get those 2 years done next summer again, back to back like we did the previous years. Hopefully try to take advantage of the lowest prices we can and not project out 3 and 4 years.
So let me see if I'm following that. So we would actually then end up going out potentially now or fairly soon on a bid for what we would want to do for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20. So up there, the pink and the yellow, and they would probably be done next summer.
That is correct, and if you couple them that way, there's virtually no changes, because all we did is shift a couple from next year to this year, and so if you combine the two, really the same exact roads we've done in the same fiscal or in the same summer, it just is packaged differently budget-wise, and that's why Mike would have the good input for you.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Two questions. In your drawing off of Glengarry, where Marcher and Oakview meet, and then where Laguna is by the, it's black in there on this map. Is that just a difference of colors, or is that something that has to be done?
Yeah, I believe what you're reading is maybe a discoloration.
Okay.
Laguna, Oakview were done
Yeah,
this
it's all
past
done.
year, and so
I
they were
just-
all done. And so it jumps up to the 15-year plus. We don't expect to do anything for 15, 20 years on those two
Yeah,
roads.
it is in brown now, but there's a couple places where it looks like it was marked out in black in this sheet that you gave us.
Oh, yes.
If you look at that.
Yeah, I
But
think
that
that's
mean-
maybe just a blur of
Okay.
Yeah.
the
And the
road name.
other thing that I would like to comment on is that the patchwork that was done on Marchar was exceptional. That was a good contract and a good idea, and I think if there's roads that we can do that to and get 4 or 5 years out of, I think that's a program that we should make sure we stay with this summer. Because, when it's first done, it looks like a little bit of a checkerboard, but after a winter, you can hardly tell the difference, and all that cracking and that low area that used to hold the water is no longer, and they look like they're holding up terrifically. So I would, as being in the business and as a council member, saying that areas that can be where 80% of the road is still good, or 75%, whatever number you use, that with that kind of patching, it's well worth it, and it seems to have held up real well.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Sinkowitz, absolutely, because there are areas of very good roadways, not the least of which is Wolverine Drive. We have some pockets in Wolverine Drive that are disintegrating much too soon, and I'd like to get in and patch those. So based upon that observation, when I work with Mr. Kondak on the budget, I might recommend that we put some money in for some patching work as well as the road restoration. Thank you.
Preventive maintenance.
So I think I'm still a little blurry on the bidding of this, because it sounds to me
Yeah.
like you're saying we're gonna get a contractor to hold the price for like 16 or 18 months.
No, no.
I think I misunderstood.
You're correct, and I did some back and forth on you there. If we were to pass a budget for some work to be done in the 2018-19 budget, then we could bid just that year out now to be done between July and November. We cannot bid out work for the following budget. If we waited and bid everything out in January, now we could schedule the work whenever the contractor wanted to for 2018-19, either between May and June, or pull them together and some done in June and the rest done in July, like we did last summer. So it allowed them to do back-to-back and not have to remobilize. So we just have some options.
Okay, so we would most likely be going out for bids next winter, so winter of January 2019, and potentially getting a summer project that we would split across the fiscal years.
Yes.
But we could go out, see if we get a really good deal on a bid somewhere for this year, and if we do, then we could do those roads this year.
Yes, because my crystal ball is not nearly as good as maybe yours, but the further you go out and the more money the state throws at roadways, and you know they've got $1.2 billion they're going to be throwing at roadways, there's only so much contractors, there's only so much material, and if the state steps in and sucks all that out of the local communities, then the price is going to go up. And so I'd really like to have the ability to bid it out, see whether or not we can't get this year's done, the end of this year, if we can get a good price. If not, we'll put it off and rebid it again in the winter.
Doesn't look like asphalt's going to have an appreciable increase, does it?
Not in the petroleum side, because those prices are being held. It's more in the labor side.
Yeah.
And supply and demand, you know, even though the materials aren't going up, the contractors and the manufacturers are saying, well, we only have we only have a finite amount of supply, and therefore we're going to boost our prices.
It's really hard to forecast, because
Yes.
the Michigan construction, road construction industry was squeezed so tight and, got to such a small size.
Right.
That now that there's some additional work, there's really not the work infrastructure there to support it yet.
That's exactly
But,
right.
Given a year or two for them to ramp up.
Contractors.
maybe
That's
it comes
correct.
around.
Oh, there's so much,
Yeah,
especially.
so I have a question, we're doing all this talking, and I brought this up in our meetings upstairs. What about Wakedo? We've got 4 little streets there. I think 2 of them, there's no homes or access for garages or anything. I mean, is there a chance we can eliminate them? And
So-
turn them into part of that park?
That's
And
definitely one of
then
the things we've
possibly
talked
work
about
on
within the
paving one of those other, into one of these budgets for this year and maybe the next one next year. And let's be done with the gravel and stuff that we don't need in the village. Bring it all up to date with paved roads.
It's definitely one of the potential things in the park plan, and I think we should talk about it. If we're gonna do it, ideally, we would do it while we're doing those roads.
Well, that was my thought, if you can at least get one in this year.
Well,
Or both, I don't know what the pricing would be or how much work's entailed.
I think as a matter of process, what we would do is make the decision to do it, put it in the budget as we go
Right.
through the budget process, then we would potentially go out for bids this summer. Probably don't get a good price. If we get a real deal, then we go ahead, and that would be part of this year's work. If we don't, then it would happen next summer.
Because, I know the DPW's got to go ahead and plow it down because the potholes get to be ridiculous after the weather we've had. And it's just, let's be done with it.
Yeah, like Mike had pointed out, it's really to anybody's advantage if you can get a crew to come in there and
Sure.
say, look, we got this, this, and this, and they go, hey, we're gonna be here for 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, we'll take that job.
Right.
Well,
You don't have
again,
to mow.
I just think it's worth looking at and exploring.
Yeah,
to
they would
see.
be in that area, so that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Probably what we need as part of the overall planning of this, and the budget planning of this, is at least
Just a little clarification, were we talking about paving or vacating them into the park?
So what Bob was talking about was kind of both. He was talking about
Okay.
vacating the parts that are strictly in the park.
Oh,
And then there's also one
two
other.
streets that there's
Yeah.
no homes or anything.
That's correct.
Then from Brisbane to, what is it, Woodlawn?
Woodlawn,
And
yeah.
Woodlawn to, is that Terry? Or Roselawn,
Yeah.
one or the other.
Roselawn.
There's a garage that enters on one and
Just a
there's a
portion,
house on the
yeah.
other.
Right.
But when you go east of that, you know,
It's mostly all village,
Yeah.
bordering village
Yeah.
property, and so
Okay.
we would
I
end
just
up,
wanted
we would
to
end up,
Vacating those.
well, vacating it or paving that portion.
well, I personally think vacating it would be the ideal situation.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Why even take care of it?
Give Andy more grass to cut. That's true. Nice parking area and a
Yes,
whole
it
ball of
would.
wax you could put right there.
And we'll have
That
a
would
little
be a good
train
place
that'll
to
take
park
him
the
to
lot.
the memorial and come back.
That'd be a nice place for it.
I might also mention, and Andy and I have talked about it, Winghamton is a gravel road as well. Andy and I have looked at that, and it'd be very difficult to pave that road because of the width of the roadway, and it's very finite on where the water might run to. So we'd have some drainage issues if we were to.
Waukeeta?
No, Winghamton
Oh, okay,
is
yeah.
on
All
the
right. I know what-
southwest side of the village. So I'd like Andy and I to discuss that a little bit more and see whether or not, by just keeping that one roadway, does that mean that he has to keep all his gravel servicing equipment just for that one roadway, and how we might approach council on that one as well?
You know,
We also, I think, have that small road that parallels Lad, too.
That's already a private,
Oh, is that private?
you know, Andy also mentioned about the memorial. That might be the perfect area.
You're correct, there is a Park Road parallels that.
right.
Yeah, that's also still
We'd
there.
like to make it private.
You know, the
vacant.
Vita Trail or whatever it is on Glengarry, you know, the workout area, that might be a perfect place to put in parking and have that established right there. You know, it's in line with the path work and everything else.
So I'd say let's bring all of that
Yeah,
to park discussion, but I think what we want as part of the budget process is looking forward is, let's see what the actual costs of vacating and/or doing a little supplemental paving where these roads are, and we're gonna be paving in the meantime are, because if we're gonna do anything, that's the time to do it.
Okay, I can roll that into the master plan and present it at budget time as well.
and you'll have it segregated.
I'll have it segregated with some options.
Mhm.
Right.
Just a question, Mike. In all that's going on with this $1+ billion, weren't there certain guarantees between the contractors and the state on certain roads in terms of longevity and all of the rest of that? Is that still in place, or is that only on federally funded?
No, that's still in play. The fallacy, and I say fallacy in that position is, MDOT demands that it be done a certain way. They write the specs, they design it and everything else, and you can't have a contractor be responsible for something they didn't design.
Yeah, for their specifications.
And I'll soapbox here a little bit. If the MDOT were to get out of the road building business and just gave that to a contractor, made them design it, make them install it, then we can make them guarantee it, and we could get rid of the inspectors and everything, because the contractors know how to build the roads, not the inspectors. So there's a little soapbox there.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. You can step down. but-
Yeah, all right.
I'm glad to know it.
Get rid of them.
Fortunately, you still need a couple engineers, that's correct.
Well, how does the Oakland County Road Commission fit into all of that? Is
Uh,
that part of the body
Just get a
that
piece of the
does this?
pie.
They're Same
I mean,
piece
they're
of
part
pie.
of the specs, or is it
They
state of
take,
Michigan?
they take MDOT's specs and they adjust them just for themselves, tell the contractor how to build their roads out of their money. So again, it's not, you just can't hold a contractor responsible for building it to somebody else's standards.
And it's not always apples and apples, is it?
No, it's huge difference.
And they're their own body, right?
They're their own independent body,
You know,
that is correct.
nobody can touch Oakland County roads, I
Right.
understand, so.
All right, I think that's all we've got. I don't think we need a motion out of that, but.
I don't think so.
Very, very helpful to hear,
Thank
and I
you.
think.
Okay. Thank you, council, very much.
what we have
Thank you,
next.
Michael.
All right. Brings us to recommendations from Chief Ellsworth.
Just a couple things here. One of them requesting to send Officer Sutzko to a 3-day criminal interview and interrogation school, June 5th, 6th, and 7th. At a cost of $470 is within budgeted funds.
Do I hear a
I'll make that
motion?
motion.
Second.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Duff. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Item 2.
Is to request purchase of 13 duty belt cases. These are tourniquets that we were issued by our OPTAC, our coalition that we belong to. We've been trained in using these. They're no good if they remain in our bags in our car. We need to have them on us. And what we found was these are less expensive than the cases, the carrying cases. The carrying cases are like $39 a piece, and I need 13 of them for our officers, because every one of us have been trained how to use the tourniquets now. So I'm asking to purchase 13 duty belt cases for our tourniquets at a cost of $499.50 from budgeted funds.
So moved.
Motion Duff, second Sinkowitz. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
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 Yes. Scott?
Yes. I
Item
said
3.
yes. I said yes, yes, yes. I was just wondering where he's gonna put it on his belt.
We're gonna keep
You know
eating
what?
until we expand. Make room. Number 3 is really interesting. We've kind of known this is coming for the last few years. It's Virtual Academy. It is an online training where we can meet a lot of our required courses that we have to take every year. And I think some people in the audience understand how this works because they've done it before. And this is really, it's a great list of training courses that our officers can take either on their own time, and I'm even going to allow them certain time. I'm going to assign certain courses that they have to meet per quarter to make sure we get our money's worth. But it's $69 an officer for a year for a total of $483, and I'm doing these 7 full-time officers, or 7 certified officers for this. I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, we're going to be able to save on traveling costs and overnight expenses and things like that, and meet a lot of our required training. And actually, if I was to send one officer, by the time I pay them their hourly rate and the cost of the class, it's going to be, almost $483. Obviously, with Officer Sutzko.
So the online classes meet the certification standards?
Yes, they do. And we had, just so you guys are aware, and I know Mr. Byrd was, I invited him in, I hosted a kind of a meet and greet, and so we talked to, it's actually a retired sergeant from the city of Detroit that came out here. Her and another gentleman who is actually retired chief from both Detroit and Flint, Tolbert, came out and talked to myself and 4 other chiefs that met here to go over this, and 3 of them signed up before they left, and obviously I wanted to come to you and fill you in on it, but I think this is a great thing, and I think it's going to be money well spent. And like I say, I want to do it this year to see how we do, and maybe the next couple of years we can even, I hate to even say this, but probably reduce our training budget if we can meet some of our expected training online. So I think it's a good thing.
I don't hate to hear you say that.
No, I obviously we're trying to do the best we can as far as downing or keeping our costs down, because costs in other areas have gone up.
For $483, it sure seems worth trying.
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion that based on the information supplied by our police chief, that we spend $483 on the virtual academy for training purposes.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Nedrow. Further discussions? Roll call vote.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
Yes.
Demuth?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, brings us to item H, second call to the public, opportunity for citizens to address the council regarding any and all village business. Champagne.
Linda Champagne, 250 Oak Island, and I'm here on behalf of my position of liaison with Commerce, Parks and Recs. Kind of wanted to fill you in, hadn't been here in a while. As you've probably seen, the bridge is going over M5 for the trailways, and it's moving along, and it's going to be a pretty big structure. I got a letter today from Emily England, who is our chairperson for Parks and Recs. This is in regards to Scarlett's Park. They had applied for 2 grants for that park. It's moving ahead full speed. It's going to be at Dodge. They're going to have to put in a new parking lot and new restroom facilities. They applied for the Land Water Conservation Fund grant, which I talked to these guys about, that we ought to look into that for our Veterans Park. They also applied for a trust fund grant through the state. They were informed that Scarlett's Park couldn't apply for both. So since the township agreed that it would be the township's responsibility to construct a restroom facility with more parking, it was decided that the township would go after the Land Water Conservation Fund grant, leave the trust fund grant for the park. So that's what's going on there, and I think that they're really moving along really quickly on this. And so I don't know if anybody has any questions about Scarlett's Park at this point.
I think everybody's familiar with that, so, yeah.
Okay.
Do they know when they're likely to hear back on those sorts of things, or?
You know, this was brand new to me today.
Okay.
And I have a meeting on next Monday. So we'll hear more about this, I'm sure. And I think that they have to go after these grants really quickly now. I think they've applied for both already. I don't have any reason to believe that they're not gonna get both those grants.
They should be a strong contender, yeah.
I mean, it's just too cool a project. And I know that Scarlett's Park is donating, they've got half the funds, right, to rock and roll. They're moving really quickly on their portion of that. And like I said, I will approach Onwards and Upwards on what they can do about their tax exempt status. But I had a question, maybe Ms. Kimberlin can answer. Is a municipality not being a tax exempt itself, can it not go ahead and do the lottery for a park project that we're gonna put in for funds?
No, I know we've done some research before on that with other organizations wanting to do that. I can look into that further and confirm that, but right off the top of my head, and to my recollection,
It becomes gambling of
I don't
sorts?
think it's an appropriate, yes. Do you remember, Nathan, what
Yeah,
there was one?
Yeah, people can donate money
Remember what
to the village for the purpose of the park, but as far as the raffle angle, my understanding is, and I know Mr. Sinkless is aware, it has to be sponsored by a
Their book was about
CPA.
this thick and it was specific.
Yeah.
I forget what the other organization, but there was someone else, another organization had approached regarding that as well. So I will confirm with Nathan 100%, but that's not likely.
At the next, I think it's going to probably be the April meeting, but at this March meeting, I had asked Ms. England to put us on me on the agenda to speak to completing the pathway between Glengarry and all the way down for a walkway for these kids to get to schools. And I know Mr. Scott had a conversation with Mr. Scott over there about this, and so we're gonna try to move forward. I think Mr. Scott over there is in agreement that it is a necessary walkway.
So on South Commerce?
On South
Commerce, yeah.
That would be awesome.
So we're gonna put this on the agenda, and then Parks and Recs Commerce has a joint meeting in April with their board, and I think that would be an appropriate time to have a couple representatives from here on that pathway to have a discussion there when we have their entire board there. And I also want to ask that we may want to again look into starting up that CW3 group. because we've got all new managers at Wixom, you got new managers at Commerce, we've got a new manager here, and I think it'd be really nice if they got to meet and greet each other now.
We've been talking about
Yeah,
at least getting
In
some
fact-
smaller
In fact, when I
pieces
went
of it
around to
together.
the different communities and talked to them, there's a big holdup.
Oh, to do it.
Yeah, well, we
CW3,
could certainly get together
Huh?
perhaps with Commerce, just directly with Commerce at
all
the beginning,
meeting.
and maybe Commerce and Wixom and us, and, build out from there again.
Well, it's funny, when everybody else is getting together, how some walls get broken down. And the right people ask me. Part of a good situation. So anyways, I will come back to you guys with an answer on this, on the onwards and upwards stuff.
And did you know what day the, that joint meeting is?
It's going to be,
It's a Tuesday,
my
isn't it?
best guess is that they're usually on the same night as you, right?
No, I thought they were
I
Tuesdays.
think they're on Tuesdays.
Yeah. They had one this week.
So it will be a Tuesday, and I think it will, because she had to
Yeah,
send a
one from
change
the-
around. So I
yesterday.
think it's gonna be the 24th.
They were always a month.
of April.
The day before us, and I think it's.
The day
yeah, a
before us,
month
it's
from
always
yesterday. Yeah.
Is it?
That's their regular meeting. Is it gonna be part of their regular meeting, or is it a separate meeting?
You know what, I'm just gonna get you
Yeah,
that date.
go ahead, give me the date.
Oh, yeah, and Scarlett's Park is, there is a form that I was sent the other day, and I'll pass that on to you guys too, because it's in an email form. Scarlett's Park is going after $200 a brick as a buy-in, and that gives you 3 lines of whatever script you want to put on it, or pictures, I think, or whatever. But that's how they're gonna be raising some funds.
Okay.
Well, that's the engraving cost and the placement.
Maybe that we
cost.
could get that
They
information,
have to
to
lay the
possibly
whole
put it out or
pattern,
distribute it
have to
through the
pull
village.
Yeah, I'll just, because they did a beautiful job
I
on
think
the
that's what
brochure for it,
they're talking
so we can plagiarize off of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't get that park, but I was really happy to see Commerce got it.
Yeah, it's gonna be
I think that's
nice.
a better
It
location,
is,
really.
it is a great location for it, it really is. I think it'll get a lot of use with the library and the soccer fields. That's another thing, the Nike Park, they're looking to put 8 soccer fields over there.
Well,
Yeah.
glad I
It's
don't
gonna be
live around
incredible.
there.
What's that?
Well, that's basically
That's
empty.
perfect.
Nobody lives around there right now.
That's a good thing.
Well, that's not the same one, that's Dodge Park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah,
about,
this is
we're
over
talking
at-
about Nike Park
Grandson
over off the
played
Wise
everything.
Road.
Oh, all right.
The big
Geez,
one
that's
they
good.
bought from the,
Right.
yeah.
Didn't they rename that?
Yeah, it's, God, you'd think I'd remember the name, but I don't.
Oh, sorry.
They actually have it as 2 separate entities. One's going to be the soccer fields, and one's gonna be more of a nature park that's gonna have, I think it's still gonna have a lot of bike paths and things like that in it. So they've kind of broken it into 2 parks for 2 different, it's very cool. And that's all starting pretty soon, too, so.
I just might make some comments. The reason David and I were talking, I'm on the Tax Appeals Board. Interesting place to be sometimes when your residents show up. But David came up and we started talking about the question of pathways and et cetera, and I passed that along to Nathan, who's going to reach out to him and have a meeting. But he brought up another thing that I didn't realize that he's pushing, and hopefully Commerce will become involved with at the board. I think it might be presented at the board you're talking about getting information on. There's a strip of land, and I don't know how to explain it anyway other than give it verbally, that runs approximately at the corner of Glengarry and South Commerce and runs diagonally completely through Commerce and ends up coming out at Pontiac Trail. And what he's looking to do is have a connection pathway all the way through there, because that corner, which I guess would be the northwest corner of all of the building that's going on off of Martin Place, will be an entertainment district. And he's hoping to get that path in there so that the high school kids and anybody that might want to go from high school to work in that area will have a way to get there. So he's really pushing on that, and that's when we got into the conversation. Well, it makes sense for you guys to come along and do something to help us out.
That would be super, and then that would give people access to that.
All the way through, you could walk all the way down to,
Well,
I think there's
But
four.
for the South Commerce Parkway, we're going to need to have communication with Waldlet,
Right.
because it goes in front of the church.
There are some pieces of it that would be on the south, on the.
Yeah, that's the Walled Lake side. I was talking from
Yeah, but I
basically
mean,
Decker
yeah.
and South Commerce going up. Commerce.
Also worth mentioning on South Commerce, we do have the Traffic Improvement Association
Oh,
doing a
that's right,
traffic
too.
study there right now to talk about what might be there. It is Oakland County Road Commission right-of-way, and, they have certain responsibilities to make those roads pedestrian safe too, and that is.
Yeah, and I mentioned that
When-
too.
when
and,
is that
he's
safety
gonna talk
report
with you
due
on
in?
that, Mike.
There's no deadline. They wanted to collect some of the data this spring and then have something to us this spring, so I would think May or so. I talked with them about a month ago.
So we probably won't have anything by that.
No, I don't think we'd have anything there, but we might have something, fairly soon thereafter.
Yeah, the thought was that once we have that report back, we would use that as a reason to get our pathway committee back together to have something to begin those discussions and go from there. But I'll check in with them again this week and see where their progress is.
I think it might, even if we don't have stuff in, I think it's important that we have representation at this meeting, because it only happens once a year for Parks and Recs and them to get together unless there's something special. But I think that, just to get the talk started and to gauge the interest, and I think there is huge interest, at least for getting it going down on that, across the side and getting down in front of the dentist's office and the chiropractors and stuff like that. So, at least that's what I've promoted, because I said it'd be too difficult to do it on our side.
I think that's always been our problem there. All right, thanks. Anybody else? We are still in the second call to the
Oh, I
public.
have one thing. In regards to the roads.
You are who,
I
where?
think it's really important that we do try to get some bids out, because if we're going to be putting a parking lot on Oak Island and repaving and all of that, it's probably a really good time to do the asphalting up there.
Thank you. Anybody else, second call? Seeing no others, I will close the second call to the public. Okay, now where have I lost my agenda? There it is. Sorry about that. Okay, that brings us to item I, 2018 Local Road Improvement Pilot Program Application. I think as you all saw, this is something that we're at least looking at, and we're looking for a little bit more information about whether we might be eligible for something there. And Nathan, you want to discuss it a little
Yeah,
more?
last year we opted not to provide an application. This year, we just got notified last week, and this is a really difficult program for us, I believe, because there's a very heavy economic development component associated with this grant. And if you actually look at the economic impact page of the application, this has to be a project for the purpose of encouraging and assisting businesses to locate and expand within the county. And the makeup of our village is not such that that's a real easy find for us. Also challenging is that we're only being offered $7,500. So $7,500 economic development component.
Couple driveways.
Well, yeah, and so it's very nice that we're included in on this, and that's the share of the formula that would be available to us. I asked Engineer Powell if he could think of something I couldn't think of. I know President McGee talked about an idea of putting this money towards the pathway from Clara Miller up to the intersection. Not sure if you think that'd be a feasible.
And it may be, but it probably wouldn't promote economic development. It would just provide for access via pedestrian. But I did not have time to contact the department itself to find out if it's even eligible.
Yeah, the only thing that I thought that might apply there is if we have empty slots in that little mall that's along the way, that provides pedestrian access to that area, and it might be something. So, I don't know if that, and Mike, Nathan, is that worth following up on, or is this just, hey, it's a grant that just isn't right for us?
If the pathway weren't available, I can't even imagine what else we could do. But it's certainly worth
It's
a
more
call.
aggravation for
Yeah.
If I could suggest, if Mr. Powell and I can get some feedback that implies that that might be possible, we have to do this by April 20th, and so if council wanted to consider maybe a motion to authorize us to apply if we get reason to, we'd be able to do that and get the
Take advantage
application
of it
prepped
if
by the
it's
deadline.
available.
And if we get feedback that that's just not gonna fly, then we just won't apply for it. I think that'd be.
We need a motion for that?
We need a motion.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion Duff, second Dumont, to apply for the 2018 Local Road Improvement Pilot Program application if it turns out we have a good project for that. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Worth inquiring about, and I won't hold my breath.
Pathway in front of Kaya.
Yes.
Sidewalk, right?
Sidewalk.
Yeah, I thought about that too, but we've already got that little chunk. All right, set topics for March 28th work session. I believe we've already done that, and we'll have actually a March 29th work session on Thursday, March 29th. Item K, council openings procedure. Rather than discuss it at length, maybe, Mr. Scott suggested that we had some confusion. And in all honesty, I think that's on me. I think I did a bad job of explaining what we were gonna do, especially because we didn't have a request to go to a closed session for that last one, which has been different than a couple of the ones that
Than the
we've done
others,
before.
yeah.
And for the voting process itself, we've done a couple things over boards and head councils over the years. I went with looking for nominations. But perhaps we could have the admin committee take a look at it, come back to council and see if there's a smoother way to do that. And that would be just looking for a recommendation to have the admin committee review it and come back to council with a recommendation.
Should we add that to this coming Friday's admin
Yep.
meeting? Do we have room? Okay.
So do I hear, if that's good with council, I'd look for a motion.
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion Malik, second Duff, to ask the admin committee to look over our council openings procedure. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And sorry, John, I didn't want to roll down that one, but I think that's really.
No,
what I
that's
wanted to do.
exactly where I was hoping we'd go, but thank you.
All right, pending business, we have none tonight. Update from the chief.
It was and I want to knock on wood when I say that, a slower month of February than normal, which is good. We had our training, as our annual training, as well as Reserve Officer Grunwald is currently attending the Marine Patrol Academy at the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, which is another good thing. We are so looking forward to summer. It's got to come soon, right? Other than that, the 2018 Tahoe is in getting outfitted. That's been dropped off, and hopefully that'll be back within the next couple of weeks, and that's it. Thank you.
All right. Update from the treasurer.
Mr. President, the budget process has started. Information went out to all of our boards and commissions, also our department heads, Andy Stone and John Ellsworth. No feedback as of yet, or limited feedback from the water board, but so we're ready to get going on that. Secondly, you might remember we had our bond sale, our special assessment bonds, went out for bid, and we got bids back on last Thursday, March 8th. We sold it, the issue, to a bank in North Carolina, Branch Bank and Trust, which, as it turns out, is the 15th largest bank in the country. The rate on the special assessment roll will be 4.19. That compares pretty favorably, I think. The last time we went out for LA3, which is in 2013, the rate on the special assessment roll was 3.09. As you know, rates have been kind of on the march. And so I guess that's considered a pretty good bid. We had four, only one local established bank here, or with a bank with a presence here, bid on it. But we expect to close on March 29th, so we'll have money in hand and be able to start that process in earnest.
All right, thank you. Update from the administrator.
Just a notification for council, the State of the Lakes is coming up on the 27th at Edgewood Country Club. And if any of you would like to go and would like me to register your attendance, please let me know. If not, you have to register yourself the day of, and certainly easier to take care of it beforehand. That's always a good event, and President McGee will be offering remarks on behalf of our village.
If you haven't had enough of me tonight, get more of me.
What was the date?
Volunteer for more.
That's the 27th.
27th.
Yeah, at 11:30. You want to go? Okay. This is the time of year also when Park and Rec finalizes a lot of the events, so keep an eye on our website. We've got all the events being promoted on there, including a few coming up this month. My ears perked up a little bit when Ms. Champagne referred to me as new, because Facebook informed me today that this is my 2-year anniversary with the village. And it's funny that I'm the seasoned veteran between ourselves, Commerce, and Wixom. It just seems crazy because I feel like I got here 5 minutes ago, but it's been a real joy these last 2 years. And I'm going to keep playing the new card as long as I can, and I'll continue to say I don't know as long as it's truthful, but I have really enjoyed these last 2 years, so thank you.
All right, brings us to council comments. We'll start down here with Malak.
Ms. Champagne, thank you. I thought that was very, very informative on what you presented to us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And the next thing is Andy's gone. You know, our DPW does a fantastic job, but I'm really tired of picking my neighbor's sod out of my driveway when the trucks want to clean the streets to the maximum. Okay? I mean, we're so blessed in this village to have a DPW that does the job they do. But they get a little overboard now and then, trying to clean right up to the grass line. And, you know, they're taking a foot of lawn off the neighbors and putting it in my yard. I mean, I got a few spots I can use it, but I don't think the guy behind me wants to get rid of it. They just need to back off, you know, or you have a ton of people in our subdivision that have those little orange sticks that stand up about 5 foot tall. If the village wants to put those out to people to put up along their property, it's just, you know, every year. I mean, last year it was the house across from me. You know, they took out 40 foot of lawn, I mean, 8 to 12 inches wide. And they're doing a great job, but they're overdoing it. Other than that, tell them to keep up the good work.
Can I comment on that real quick? Just so we understand. There is supposed to be a shoulder there. It's not supposed to be grass. There's actually supposed to be a shoulder along the side of the road. And that's what they go by, is those blades are a certain width for a certain reason. They make one swat down one side, and they turn around and go back to the same spot. Those grass, if you look, I peeled back my grass last year 12 inches where it had overgrown onto the concrete.
Believe me,
But,
John.
okay, I'm just saying,
No, I'm just saying.
there should be a shoulder there, there should be runoff, because if you don't, that's where you get the buildup, and but to their defense, a lot of that should be shoulder, and
Oh, yeah,
it's grown
well,
up.
Again, look, I'm not knocking the job they do, it's great.
I know,
But,
I just,
you know, I got enough work to clean up in the spring, let alone have to put those patches back. You know, we don't have to have it bare cement right to the lawns, okay? You know, when it snows in this community, you can drive anywhere within it. You all know that have lived here for any time. But, you know, it's like they clean out the corner by me, and I've got these big boulders on the corner. Well, they've been pushed back 18 inches because they're plowing those corners open. You know, I mean, there's a limit. I guess I'll have to go out and buy the little sticks for next year.
Well, let me suggest to you and everybody who does have an issue with the plowing, come back, call the village, we'll take a look at it.
Well, again, look, they do a fantastic job there. I'm not disputing that. But they almost overdo it. It seems like, well, it's not snowing today, let's get the plow and clean a little more. You know, polish the truck, I mean, geez. I'm sorry, that's it.
All right. No.
No comment.
Jamont.
No comment.
Scott?
Never mind, I was thinking of some bushes that are gone, but that's okay. It's part of having good snow plowing. I just thought of comment, I attended the Lakes Area Youth Assistant Monthly Board meeting today, and I was reminded of how important they are to our general community and the people and the amount of time that goes on there. It's really, really interesting, so.
Can I ask you a question? I'm supposed to be on that. But I've never seen anything, no emails, nothing, I mean.
Yeah, they don't do that. I think we got your name on there, so you want emails, you'll probably be getting more than you need.
Okay,
I
well,
don't-
again,
I hope I
I,
gave
you know,
you-
I would
Yeah, I
have gone
understand.
if I was open to go.
I wasn't standing in your
No,
place.
no, I'm just saying,
Standing.
I had no idea when it was gonna be, so.
All right, we'll make sure we get that
Yeah.
information to you.
Bob took my time slot too.
Thanks.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Sigowitz.
The lake is filling up fast.
Boy, is it.
So if you got work to do on your seawall or dock, get your waders out.
Too late.
And to what Bob said, it might not be a bad idea that we supply some of those orange stakes and residents who want to come and put them up on a corner that constantly gets abused. It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, this abuse is in the middle of the block, Ed.
I know,
I'm not,
I'm just-
you know, I happen to be on a corner, but it ends up,
But you
to
know,
me-
every place that has their snow plowed, every parking lot, they've got all those little orange stakes
Yeah.
around there. And, you know, we give away bug spray, we give away garbage, leaf bags, give away 3 to a resident. That's it.
We're charging.
All right. Actually, for me, I have one question before I come in. Do we still have any openings on the St. Patty's Day bus?
That is full. That sold out yesterday, I believe.
Okay. I was gonna do a plug for it, but never
So,
mind.
so that one's full. There is room at the bunny lunch, though, if anybody's interested. Different event. But, yeah, the bus is sold out.
Will refreshments be served at the bunny lunch?
Refreshments will be served.
Very different events. All right, well, happy St. Patty's Day, everybody, and on
Motion to
Saturday.
adjourn.
Support.
Motion Sikowitz, second Medro, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye, aye.
We are adjourned.